This is Conversations with a Gender Therapist Q&A, where a gender therapist answers questions from those who are transgender, non-binary, gender questioning, as well as those who love them. I'm your host, Dara Hoffman Fox, licensed professional counselor. Let's get on to today's question. Today's question comes from the Conversations with a Gender Therapist Facebook page, and this is how it goes. The question is passing. Why is there always so much pressure to pass or not to pass? This is an awesome question because it's one that pretty much all of my clients have wrestled with at some point or another. Before I begin, I want to clarify where I'm coming from when I talk about passing. Some of you know that I identify as non-binary. And so even though by all intents and purposes of the word trans, I would be considered to be trans, I also have, at least I believe I do, I have passing privilege. This means that when I go out in the world, I don't really have any issues when it comes to the way I'm perceived by other people. Well, people perceive me as female, and I've gotten used to that at this point. Even though I want to be perceived as non-binary, it's just not a thing that society thinks of right now. They're not like, oh, are you male, female, or non-binary? They just default to female, and that's that. So, but what I'm trying to reiterate is that I don't have challenges and difficulties that come up because of the way I'm feeling my gender identity inside and then how I'm being perceived by the outside world. Or let's say that my struggle is me, it's somewhat, when someone says ma'am, a little part of me inside goes, but again, it's compared to what a lot of other people have to go through, it's small. And so the reason I wanted to say that is to remind you that as you think about things like passing and you try to figure out what you want to do about it or how you feel about it, feel free to talk to other people about how they feel, but keep in mind whether or not, even if they don't know it, if they have passing privilege, because they're going to have a perspective that isn't going to be quite like yours. You make sure you talk to other people who have that same struggle that you do when it comes to whether or not you should care about passing, and then if you do want to pass, what it is that you want to do about it. So the question has to do with the pressure to pass. And the first part of the question is, why is there so much pressure to pass? And when you think about passing, think about it first of all, like when you're taking a test, you want to pass the test. And who is it that tells you you didn't pass the test? It would be your teacher or your instructor, your coach, whoever it is. You're being told by them either you passed or you didn't pass. So therefore it means that when it comes to passing, when it comes to your gender identity, it is also something that is dependent on another person or group of people or society. No wonder that's so overwhelming, and it can feel like a lot of pressure, because as you think about your gender identity and how you want to be seen by others, you're thinking of everybody, and how do you make sure everybody is going to give you that pass mark? That's what I work with my clients on, is that there's just no way that you can know for sure, first of all, whether you pass or not, and whether you pass or not to everybody that you run into. That is a really, really hard thing to wrap one's mind around. And sometimes that can take months, even years, to try to be okay with that, or at least accept it. And it could be something that somebody who's trans might end up having to grieve on and off for their entire life, to know, you know what, even though, let's say they get to a certain point where they feel really comfortable with their gender expression and how their gender identity and expression are aligned, and they're very often seen as the gender identity they truly are, that doubt, I hear that doubt come up all the time. I have clients who have transitioned years ago, and ding, 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 that little doubt comes up every now and then. Oh, I don't feel like I'm passing today. Or what if everyone's just being nice to me? What if everyone's just tolerating me and I really don't pass? Those are those questions that are going to continue to come up more than likely the rest of your life. It'll be probably worse at the beginning. You'll kind of get used to just being yourself and living, but it's still under times of stress. And if something happens, like if you're misgendered or if you think you might have gotten, a look from somebody, those doubts might come back again. So that pressure to pass can involve somebody, first of all, having a desire to be comfortable, not only with themselves, but out in the world. I mean, I think that's fair enough. I think that when people realize that they're trans, whether they want to use hormone therapy or surgeries or not, they just want to be able to be comfortable out in the world and be able to live their lives. And so it's not too much to ask at all that that goes well. So the second part of the question said the pressure not to pass. So I think that probably comes from when people are talking about how there's just too much pressure from society when it comes to this is what a woman looks like, this is what a man looks like, let alone what non-binary looks like. And so therefore, if you look like this and act like this, then you will be seen as a female, and if you look like this and act like this, you'll be seen as a male. And the desire for people to be able to have their gender expression be whatever they're comfortable with without having to worry about all that crap, that's legitimate, because that's definitely a concern. Also, like I said earlier, having to depend on other people for how you feel, reflecting back to you. Like, am I okay? Do I pass or do I fail? And you're waiting for that other person to let you know. And that person, more than likely, especially if it's just strangers out and about in society, isn't going to stop and say, hold on, let me tell you something. But you might see a look, or you might hear a whisper, and then you might wonder, oh, are they talking about me? I think I don't pass. They could be talking about something else. They could be talking about you in a positive way, but you'll never know because that thought is still ringing in your head. So that can get very stressful. It can be very anxiety producing, which again is a reason that some people are like, you know what? I know this isn't great that I'm saying I'm depending on other people so much, but I'm going to take the steps I need to take to hopefully be able to pass. And so that basically, I guess basically what I'm saying is that passing is a part of transitioning or being trans or transgender. That is not easy. It's something that you have to make a really individual decision about how you feel about it and what you want to do about it. One thing that I work on with my clients definitely involves their own sense of self when it comes to self-esteem, how if they have any internalized transphobia where there's something negative they're feeling about even being trans in the first place, that comes up a lot too. And it really sucks because I get it. I know where that comes from. And it makes transitioning more difficult because you just never know how the way other people treat you is going to affect the way you feel about yourself, and it could be something that you get more used to over time. I've definitely seen that happen, but I've also seen it happen that there's always going to be some bit of hurt that happens if it feels like you have encountered somebody who does not treat you nicely. And that's something that is hard to recover from, but I have taught my clients how to be able to do self-care when these things happen and be able to return back again to living their life and being true to themselves, even though it is going to come more than likely with some difficult moments. Thank you for your question, and I'm only going to answer one question per episode, and I'm also going to do more episodes though, so that way you can get like this little morsel of one thing and focus on it and be able to chew on that for a while until I come out with another video. My goal is to put out between 2 to 3 videos a week with these sorts of questions. So again, the best way for you to post a question is to go to my Facebook page, which is Conversations with a Gender Therapist. And every Wednesday I'm going to ask for questions, and you can post them under there. You can also post your questions here in the YouTube comments. If you can keep them somewhat brief and make it so that maybe I can help other people with the answer to your question, that would be great. And I really appreciate this time that you've taken with me today. This has been Dara Hoffman Fox, and I'll be back again with another episode of Conversations with a Gender Therapist Q&A. You can find more information and resources at darahoffmanfox.com. That's DARAHOFFMANFOX.com.